Hello and welcome back to Building on a Budget Models. Today is the first part of the BMW Z8 1/24th by Revell build. The Z8 is distinguished by the typical proportions of a roadster: long bonnet, short overhangs, well balanced curves and a powerful tail end. The Z8 represents a technical masterpiece that has really stood the test of time since it was released in 2000. Timeless classical design, breathtaking driver experience and maximum safety make it a classic that engages the emotions and makes it a joy to drive. The V8 sports engine develops 400 horsepower, which gives it a maximum speed of 250 km per hour with an acceleration of 0 to 100 km in 4.7 seconds. The design of the outer skin is reflected harmoniously in the interior, the most striking example of which is the top half of the dashboard, which continues the same colour as the outside, with the instruments set in the middle, just like in a classic sports car. Of course, where this car became most famous was in the Bond film, The World Is Not Enough.
Now, I want to introduce you to the young fellow I'm grooming to follow me.
Helps if you open the door.
And you might be... This is 007.
If you're Q, does that make him R?
Ah, yes, the legendary 007 wit. Or at least half of it. Now, I dare say, 007, that you've met your match with this machine.
Yeah, new model, improved specs.
I thought you were on the inactive roster, some kind of injury.
Yes, well, we'll see about that. So,
as I was saying, the very latest in intercepts and countermeasures. Titanium armor, a multitasking heads-up display, and 6 beverage cup holders. All in all, rather stocked. Fully loaded, I think is the term. I think. You're not here to think. You're here to do what I tell you. Now, go and put on the coat and demonstrate it for 007. But of course...
Nice little gag there from John Cleese about the cup holders, but I'm yet to find any at all in this Revell kit. The Z8, designed by Henrik Fisker, was based on the 1956 BMW 507, one of the finest BMWs ever built, although not a popular one in its day. The interior parts were painted in semi-gloss black to start with, and then accent parts were done in silver metallic paint afterwards. You would change the colour of this paint depending on the exterior colour of the car. These included parts of the speakers, the handle in the door and the window opening switches. The same would happen with the dashboard. Later I would go over this with a clear gloss. There were some speakers and keyholes and switches which needed to be black, so you either try and go around it or go over with a bit of black afterwards. The steering wheel was done in chrome, however I didn't like how this looked, so I went over all of it in black and then picked out the accents in silver and gunmetal. I don't think the circle for the BMW badge in the middle is quite right here. I think it's too deep, and I found putting the decal in place a little bit tricky. The instrument dials went on nicely, although I did lose one of them in the kind of overhang at the top for a bit. I used super glue to fit the steering wheel into place. The indicator stalks, I added a little bit of silver to the ends of them. I considered putting a decal here for the missile controls which Bond used in the film, but decided against it. This patch in the centre of the back has a BMW badge in the Bond film, but is left plain here. I'll print off some decals later for it. The housing round here for the handbrake should actually be black, so I came back and changed it later. I'd used my carpet trick with a little bit of black felt and some PVA glue. I made sure that the carpet on the driver's side, this car being left-hand drive, was slightly shorter so that the position for the pedals could go in from the floor. The pedals were done in anthracite. I then put a little red dot in the centre console for the hazard warning switch. The door cards fit in nicely, although I found that they did pop out occasionally, so I went around the edge with some super glue to make sure that they were as firmly fitting as possible. The handbrake and gear stick are on the chrome sprue, so you need to add a little bit of black to show where the plastic or vinyl should go. The dashboard has a little tab which fits really nicely. Just a little bit of thin cement behind this and it was good to go. The seats are made up of two parts, and there is actually a very subtle difference between the driver's and the passenger seat, with a small tab at the front of the driver's seat. I don't know why, because as far as I'm aware they look identical. I used a little bit of Molotow chrome to do the bottom of these roll hoop supports. But I found that the hoops themselves, the pins were too fat to fit into the holes, so I got some sanding sticks and sanded down the poles for them to fit in. You could have drilled the holes out a little bit. Instead, however, I'd already added the Molotow chrome and it takes a long time to cure. They went in okay this way. The hoops themselves were done in semi-gloss black. I then used these resin seatbelt sockets, which I'd bought from B&A Model World. I did them in semi-gloss black and then added a little bit of matte red for the switches at the top. I decided not to do the belts themselves, as they're normally hidden behind the seats on convertibles. A little bit of super glue and putting them into a tight spot in between the seats worked really well. Now, I'd lost the gear stick to the carpet monster, but fortunately I found that there was a spare one in the Fujimi Old Mini set, which comes with the option for an automatic or a manual. I find this a little ironic that I'm using parts from an old Mini into a relatively modern BMW. It fit well, and I don't think you'd really notice if you didn't know that I'd done it. As stated before, the BMW used by Pierce Brosnan in the film had a BMW crest in between the seats, so I decided to print my own using white decal paper. It's good to look for a badge like this one here, which has blocky colours instead of gradients, as you'll be able to resize that without losing quality. Nail scissors are very useful here because you can cut out very closely to the shape. You don't want any of the white edge. It's always important to follow the instructions that come with the decal paper. These decals were allowed to dry, and then I gave them 2 coats of clear automotive lacquer from Halfords. I leave the decal in the water for about 10 seconds and then allow some of the water to soak off on a piece of tissue paper until the decal can be moved from the backing paper. As I said in my previous video, always make sure that you print more copies of the decal than you necessarily need, just in case you make a mistake. These decals aren't as resilient as the ones that come with the kit, so mistakes can happen. I had already measured the space needed when resizing this, however some of the other decals I'd done were in slightly different sizes, just in case I didn't get it right straight away. Pretty happy with that. When it's set, I'll put a little bit of clear gloss over the top. And there the interior is finished. Next video should be looking at the undercarriage, and then the final one will be putting it all together and doing the bodywork. Thanks for watching. Please do leave a comment, like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.